memoir. Who would have ever thought at 19 I take it that far? My life is like a movie without the caption. That means even in the next scene, I swear to God, you never know what happened. I started rapping before I could talk, and I was running.
Got a tough day today. Gonna be talking a lot of negative stuff, so we'll start off with the positive talk right away, and that positive talk is about those New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson. Even though they lost their last game to the LA Lakers, Jalen Brunson still showing you that he is an MVP candidate, getting double-teamed all night, still dropping a double-double, scoring 36 points, 10 assists. He is a superstar. And is he the king of New York? Drop in the comments. Let me know. Do you think it is Jalen Brunson or the former MVP, Aaron Judge? Because let's be real. It's got to be a debate now. It's got to be a debate, especially if Jalen Brunson keeps cooking like he has been in the last 10 games. He's scoring over 31 a game over his last 10, which is third in everybody in the entire NBA. Across everybody's last 10 games, Jalen Brunson's third in the NBA in scoring. And he's also 11th year-round in scoring with 27.3. Brunson is a superstar. He might be able to bring this Knicks team to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the NBA Finals. Who knows? Only time will tell. But Brunson's a superstar. Going to also be talking about the Yankees and the Mets today as well. Going to be talking about Yankees. They just traded for Caleb Ferguson, LA Dodger reliever, 3.4 something ERA last year in 2023 across 63 starts. Pretty good reliever, lefty, replacing Wandy Peralta. Peralta signed with another team this offseason. They needed to replace him in some capacity, and Ferguson might be able to do just that. Other Yankees topics. Anthony Volpe talked last week on the pod. What are the Yankees going to do if he struggles to start off the year? Because that's possible. I mean, he hit 208 last year. So if he struggles to start the year and the Yankees are doing well and he's lacking, do they just not get rid of him, but give another guy a shot, maybe trade for another shortstop, or who knows? Who knows? Going to be talking Volpe and Yankees later. And Blake Snell, still a free agent, best pitcher in baseball last year, still a free agent. How? Who knows if the Yankees are going to get him or not, but they did offer him over $160 million. So we'll see if the Yankees do snag. I'm going to be talking about that later as well. Mets topics. Yes, we will be talking Mets. Boring off season. But we did get I'm going to butcher his name, but we got Fujinami, over a 7 ERA with the A's last year in his first year over from Japan. Not too exciting, but we'll see. We do need arms in the bullpen. We do need depth there. So if he can kind of mold into a reliable bullpen arm in his second year in the major leagues, then it'll be a good pickup. But at the end of the day, not too excited considering he had a 7.12 ERA in 2023. Francisco Alvarez, going to be talking to him later. Can he be the impact bat that we've been wanting all off season? Because if it is Francisco Alvarez that takes a step forward, then scratch all that talk about Justin Turner, Jorge Soler. Even I've been saying it. Jorge Soler, I've been wanting him all off season. But if Francisco Alvarez can take that next step, he can be that guy that protects Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor in the lineup, especially if he hits 35-plus home runs. Going to be talking about that. But yeah, let's get right into it with the Knicks because they've been cooking, fourth in the East, 32-18. More wins than the Philadelphia 76ers. They got an MVP candidate, and so do the Knicks with Jalen Brunson. I think my mic is falling apart right now. I got screws popping out of this thing right now. But Jalen Brunson, he's not falling apart. We kind of thought the Knicks might have taken a step back once Julius Randle dislocated his shoulder. Timeline extended of his absence. But Jalen Brunson is giving Knicks fans hope that we can remain in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference. Because over his last 10 games, he scored 32.9 on 51.2% shooting. Jalen Brunson is playing like a superstar. He should have been an all-star starter, but we all know it's a fan vote. New York Knicks fans, they might have. I didn't place a vote. And if there's a lot of people like me who just doesn't really care about placing that fan vote and doesn't have time, then I guess, Jalen Brunson won't get that all-star starter. But we all know Jalen Brunson is playing like an all-NBA point guard this year. 32.9 over his last 10. That's insane. He's playing better than Carmelo Anthony ever has with the Knicks. And I'll say that right now. He's playing like one of the best Knicks of all time. I think this is maybe the best season by a Knicks player of all time right now. He's playing that good. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? I mean, I know I'm young and I'm dumb. I'm only 23 and I haven't seen the Knicks of the past with Patrick Ewing and John Starks. But what Jalen Brunson is doing right now, it's better than anything I've ever seen out of Carmelo Anthony or Julius Randle. And those are the two best Knicks I've seen in my lifetime. And he's an MVP candidate. I think he is an MVP candidate, especially if he keeps doing what he's doing without Julius Randle. If he keeps winning, if he keeps letting the Knicks win ball games, then he will win the MVP. I'll say that right now. I know it sounds crazy. It's a hot take, but I really do think Jalen Brunson can secure the MVP award if Julius Randle stays out until the postseason. Like, all these rumors are coming out that the timeline of his absence might be actually more than we thought at first. And if that is true and Jalen Brunson keeps doing what he's doing, I don't know how he doesn't win the MVP, because when you look when Steph Curry won his 2 MVPs, the first MVP he ever won, he only averaged less than 24 a game. It was like 23 a night, but he was still balling out and he was carrying the Warriors. The second year he won back-to-back MVPs. He was carrying the Warriors. Did he lead the league in scoring? No. Did he have great shooting percentages though? Yes. Did he have great 3-point percentages? Yes. And that's what Jalen Brunson has. And what else is he doing? He's carrying the Knicks. Like, realistically, is Dante DiVincenzo that good? He's been playing very good, but is he that good? You take Jalen Brunson off this team, the best player on the court is OG Anunoby and Dante DiVincenzo. And Jalen Brunson is keeping them in the Eastern Conference Finals contention without Julius Randle. So right now, you take Brunson off this team, I'd say they're outside of the top 10 in the East. That's without Randle and Brunson. But let's say Randle's there and Brunson's not. I'd say 6, 7 seed, maybe 8. But you lose Randle and you keep Brunson, there's still a top 4 team in the East, maybe top 3. They were just the 3 seed a few days ago. Jalen Brunson is doing what Stephen Curry did when he won back-to-back MVPs. Is he putting up number 1 in scoring? No. Joel Embiid is going off. Yes, we all know that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's going off. But guess what? They're not doing what Brunson is doing, carrying their team. Embiid has Tyrese Maxey, he has Tobias Harris. He has all these other players. Shai has a loaded team. The Thunder are going off this year. They're having a great year. The Knicks, outside of Jalen Brunson, their best player is Dante DiVincenzo and OG Anunoby. None of them can score over 20 a night consistently. But Brunson is carrying this team. Will he end the year top 5 or top 3 in scoring? Who knows? He might. At this rate, he will. But at the end of the day, right now, I think Jalen Brunson is entering the MVP conversation. And I think he's going to only climb that ladder as the season goes on, because he's just getting better and better. And I don't know how the Dallas Mavericks let that guy go. Because whatever Tom Thibodeau and Leon Rose saw in Jalen Brunson, they were right. Because I remember a lot of Knicks fans were worried. Why do the Knicks love this guy so much? You know what? We'll accept it and we'll see what happens. And even people that thought it was a great move and were excited for Brunson to be on the Knicks, they did not expect this. And don't let them tell you otherwise. No one expected this out of Jalen Brunson. No one. You could have said he would have been an all-star, but no one would expect him to be putting up MVP numbers right now. That's what he's doing. He's putting up MVP numbers. He is in the MVP conversation. He's right up there in that convo with Shai, with Embiid, with Giannis. He's up there. I was just listening to CP, the franchise, with Tiki and Evan Roberts on the Fam. CP said he had him as his 6th best guy in the NBA right now. 6th. And me, I'm a little bit more biased than CP right now. I think he's top 3. But that's another debate for another day. But Brunson's, he's an MVP candidate. He's a superstar. He's going to keep the Knicks in the top 4 seed. Like I said, with just Randall, this Knicks team, 7 or 8 seed. With just Brunson, he's keeping them in the top 4. And he might bring them in the top 3. But the trade deadline is this week. The Knicks need a guy off the bench. You know, I heard CP, the franchise, talking about it on the Fan just about an hour ago. He said the Knicks need a guy off the bench that is like a starter. And he's exactly right. We don't need a Josh Hart or Dante DiVincenzo. And Dante DiVincenzo has been playing great, by the way. I think he was one of the more underrated pickups this offseason. And I know a lot of Knicks fans have been saying that, but shout out to DiVincenzo because he's been playing really good. But we still need another guy off the bench. Since we lost Emmanuel quickly, the bench has really taken a drop. So we need a guy. One guy who I like, the rumors that have been circulating around all Twitter, all NBA, Malcolm Brogdon has been linked to the Knicks. He's averaging 15.7 a night, and I think he would be the perfect fit because another guy who has been mentioned was Jordan Clarkson. And Jordan Clarkson, 17.5 a night. He is great. He is a lethal scoring option, but at the end of the day, this team revolves around Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson needs to have the ball in his hand, and when it's not Jalen Brunson, when Julius Randle's healthy, it's Julius Randle because Julius Randle is an all-NBA power forward. As much as the love-hate relationship with Knicks fans, Randle is an all-NBA power forward. And with Jordan Clarkson, that's just another guy who is going to ball hawk. Let's be quite frankly, Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are both ball hogs, but they're both good ball hogs. Jordan Clarkson, at times, he's a good ball hog, but majority of the time, he's a very non-efficient ball hog. He shoots less than 50%. Brogdon doesn't. So, yeah. And Brogdon's also shooting over 40% from 3 this year. Jordan Clarkson, on the other hand, is not. So, would Clarkson be a great option off the bench to carry the load? Yes, he would. But at the same time, Brogdon would fit better with Brunson, and he could also lead the bench. So, would I love both? Would I love either one of them? Yeah, I would. But if I had to pick one, I'm rolling with Malcolm Brogdon. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you rather Brogdon or Clarkson become the Knicks 6th man trade deadline this week? Another guy who's been mentioned, power forward, Charlotte Hornets, PJ Washington. He's been having a good week as of late, actually, too. But 13.8 a night, 5.2 rebounds. Shoots very well from behind the arc, too. He'd be a good option because even when Randle comes back, we do need a backup power forward, like a real backup power forward. Precious Achiuwa has been playing great, so he could be that too. But, it really depends. If he keeps playing well consistently, then you know what? You ride Precious. Whoa, pause. Then you roll with Precious. But if not, then PJ Washington, he's been floating around in trade rumors. Maybe he's on the block. Maybe you go after him. Who knows? But I'd go after Brogdon. Apparently, it might take around a first-round pick for him, but we'll see. I want Brogdon, though. And this Knicks team, man. This Knicks team. Before I do wrap up my Knicks talk, I just want to say that the Knicks are an Eastern Conference final contender. I don't know how they aren't. They've beaten teams like the Celtics. They've beaten teams like the Nuggets. They've beaten teams like the Sixers. They've beaten the best teams in the NBA all year long. They have a superstar. They have another semi-star, superstar some nights in Julius Randle. So they have 2 all-NBA players in Brunson and Randle. Isaiah Hartenstein is as good as, he's better than a lot of people think he is. He's really kind of saved the Knicks season. Since Mitchell Robinson went down, he's been a huge factor for the Knicks. OG Anunoby, most underrated trade acquisition, I think, will be all year. All year, he will be one of the most underrated trade acquisitions. And he is the best trade acquisition, even for the future trades that happen this week. OG Anunoby, is a 3. He's a number 3 option. 3 and D, elite defender. He's exactly he's exactly the player that Tom Thibodeau needs. And that's another thing I want to point out is that Thibodeau is one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA. The Knicks were the best team in the NBA in the month of January. He has the team that he's always wanted. Hard working guys that will play defense and they know their role. That's what he's wanted. And Leon Rose has gifted him that. Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, they know their role. They know who the guy is. Jalen Brunson. OG Anunoby, he knows who the guy is. He knows he can put the ball in the basket when he needs to. But he also knows that Jalen Brunson has been averaging over 30 a night in his last 10. And he's an MVP candidate. And he also knows that he's one of the best defenders in the NBA, something RJ Barrett could have been, but he never tapped into that potential. OG Anunoby knows he can be the best defender in the NBA, and he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate now. Josh Hart, too. Even though I was just talking about him, he knows his role. Yes, he knows his role, and part of his role is playing elite defense. That's what he does. He's all over on the boards, just like Isaiah Hartenstein is too. This Knicks team it's got top to bottom. They're just missing one piece, and that's Malcolm Brogdon and Jordan Clarkson. That's the one piece that they're missing. They get one of those two guys, and they're an Eastern Conference final contender. And once they get Randall back, even without Randall, like I said earlier, Brunson's still going to keep them top 4 in the East because he's just that good. But when Julius Randle comes back, the way that Randall and Brunson have been playing together this year in their second year together, they've just been getting better and better. And it's going to be scary when the Knicks are at full strength if they get a real 6-man this week. Trade deadline this week. Drop in the comments. Let me know who you guys want to see get traded to the Knicks this week. Or if you think the Knicks should just say, let's save the picks for the offseason and get an actual star. Well, not an actual star. We already have a superstar in Jalen Brunson and a star in Julius Randle. But another star. Jalen Brunson, though, what's the verdict on the MVP conversation? He's entered it. Let's talk some Yankees and then some Mets. But let's start off with some Yanks. Caleb Ferguson is coming to the Yankees from the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're sending 2 prospects to the Dodgers. And Ferguson, over 68 games, 3.43 ERA in 2023. So he's pretty good. Lefty, replacing Wandy Peralta. They needed to replace him. They got a replacement. Is he better than Peralta? No, not by any stretch. But at the same time, they still got other guys in that bullpen. Nick Martinez is another guy that they got in the bullpen, another lefty with a sub-3 ERA last year that they can also roll with. So, yeah, they got options. And then Jonathan Loaiza, too. He's going to be in the bullpen again, too. Rotation-wise, I think they're set. I still think that they could use Blake Snell. We're going to be talking about that in just a bit. But I want to talk about their bullpen because their bullpen is their bread and butter. And I think it's the most underrated part of their team because their lineup is stacked. It has probably arguably 2 top 5 hitters. They do have 2 top 5 hitters. I think Aaron Judge is a better hitter than Shohei Ohtani. I've said that all last year in 2022. Aaron Judge is the best hitter in baseball when he's healthy. And he will be healthy all 2023 as long as he doesn't stub his toe under the Los Angeles Dodgers wall. Judge, best player, best hitter in the MLB. Jesus, in the NBA. Yeah, so you got the best hitter in the MLB, you got the best pitcher in the MLB, and you also got Juan Soto, a top 5 hitter in the MLB. You bring in Alex Verdugo, who's a very good outfielder, and you also still have Anthony Rizzo going to have a bounce-back year, Giancarlo Stanton going to have a bounce-back year, Gleyber Torres, who I just forgot about, who had his best year last year. Yes, better than 2019 when he hit all those home runs because that was the juice ball. Doesn't really count. Gleyber Torres had his best year last year. So we have all these guys that can hit. And you also have Anthony Volpe, who I'm going to be talking about in a little bit too, who hit 20-plus home runs in his 21-year-old season as a rookie shortstop for the Yankees. And he's a hometown kid too. So a lot of pressure on that kid, and he hit 20-plus home runs. Batting average needs to come up, but a lot of home runs out of that kid. A lot of bright spots. Gold glove, elite defense. But that's besides the fact. Their bullpen gets overlooked because their lineup is stacked. Their rotation Garrett Cole, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Rodon, if he comes back this year strong, and Nestor Cortez, same thing. If they all come back strong, that rotation, those 4 guys, they got studs, especially if they add Blake Snell. They got the best rotation in all of MLB. But their bullpen is already the best bullpen in the MLB. Last year, they had the best ERA as a collective unit, I think it was around a 3-4 off the top of my head. I'm not too sure, but they did have the best bullpen in baseball without a real closer too. Tommy Canley, beast. Nick Martinez, beast. Caleb Ferguson, not a beast, but he could be. Who knows? They got guys in that pen top to bottom. Their bullpen is loaded. And that leads me to the next point. They're the best team in baseball. Because I just said they got the best bullpen in baseball. They have an elite lineup. I just mentioned all those guys. And their rotation, they have the reigning Cy Young Award winner. And they might be bringing in another Cy Young Award winner. And for the Yankees fans that they're like, oh, we don't need Blake Snell. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't need Blake Snell? The Yankees they have a window right now. They have a chance to dive through that window, that championship window. They have Juan Soto, maybe only for 1 year. Who knows? I think he's going to re-sign. A lot of Mets fans, they're going to say he won't, but I think he will. But let's say he doesn't. 1 year of Juan Soto. You got Aaron Judge. He's not getting any younger. Garrett Cole. He's not getting any younger. Gleyber Torres is actually very good now. He's a good piece. Anthony Volpe, 20-plus home runs as a rookie shortstop last year. Replacing Derek Jeter, too. A lot of pressure on that kid. You also got Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, who could both hit over 25 home runs next year. You got a stud lineup. DJ LeMahieu, too, another guy who I just left out, who had a great second half last year. Maybe he can be that leadoff hitter. Who knows? The Yankees lineup is very good. That's not going to hold the Yankees back in 2024. The bullpen, as I just mentioned, it's very good. They're not going to hold the Yankees back in 2024. The rotation, though, they got Clark Schmidt as their 5th. Don't be fooled. He's not that good. He's not. He put up decent numbers last year, yeah. But like I said, their championship window is right there in 2024. They could win that 28th World Series. I'm serious. They could. They really could. You got the best pitcher in baseball in Garrett Cole, and the guy who just won his second Cy Young, who had, in his last 20 starts, he put up unreal numbers. These are video game numbers. 1.3 ERA, 165 strikeouts, 12-3 across his last 20 starts. Video game numbers right there from Blake Snell. How is he not signed? The Yankees should be offering him 160 to 180 million, and I think they will get him, and that will further my point on why I am taking the New York Yankees to win the World Series in 2024. I'm saying it right now, and especially if they get Blake Snell, and I'm saying they will get Blake Snell. 2 bold predictions. Yankees get Blake Snell. Yankees win the World Series in 2024 because they're that good. And that's why they need Blake Snell to further their chances. Because if they're going to go against the Houston Astros or the Texas Rangers in the postseason, wouldn't it be nice if they had Garrett Cole and Blake Snell going 1-2 rather than Garrett Cole and maybe Carlos Rodon, who sucked last year, or Nestor Cortez, who couldn't stay healthy last year? Wouldn't you be more confident if you had Cole and the guy who in his last 20 starts was unhittable? And it's not like it was out of a blue moon. This guy won his second Cy Young. His second. Oh, he walks a lot of guys. Dude, shut up. Just look at his numbers. Shut up with all these little analytical numbers. He was the best pitcher in baseball. Why? Because no one could hit him. If the Yankees sign him, they're going to win the World Series. I'm putting it like that. Why? Because Cole and Snell. Ooh. And Stroman, I'll say it right now, he's not going to suck. He's not going to be elite, but he's going to be good. And same thing with Nestor Cortez. And if Carlos Rodon bounces back and has a year like he did 2 years ago with the Giants, then you got 3 maybe aces. 3 maybe aces. 2 aces, 2 legitimate aces in Snell and Cole. And then Rodon, if he could put up ace-like numbers, and then we all know what Nestor Cortez can do if he can stay healthy consistently. He can put up really good numbers too. So the Yankees, they get Snell. They have the best rotation undoubtedly in baseball, and they will win the 2024 World Series. Sign Blake Snell. I don't know why he hasn't been signed. We got a comment. Jared, what's up, Jared? Juan Soto, rent in the Bronx, buy in Queens. Woo! That would be awesome if the Mets did sign him in the offseason, but and that's kind of why I'm also rooting for the Yankees to win the World Series a little bit, because just win a ring. I don't care. Go win your ring. I'll get clowned, whatever. It's not like you're going to beat the Mets, because the Mets aren't going to make the World Series in 2024. I'm telling you right now, they're not. They're not good. They might make the playoffs, but they're not getting there to lose to the Yankees in the World Series. They just won't. But yeah, if Juan Soto wins a ring with the Yankees, maybe he just says, you know what, I did my job with the Yankees. I'm going to the Mets because they're going to give me more money. Already won in New York. Already won 2 rings. Let's go win another one with the Mets. 3 rings with 3 different teams would be pretty cool for Juan Soto. But it's another conversation for another day. I would love to see Juan Soto in the orange and blue, though. And I know Jared would, too, because that would mean that Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, if we re-sign Pete Alonso, I don't want to say Juan Soto and Pete Alonso in the same lineup. But knock on wood that we do re-sign Pete Alonso. And speaking of Pete Alonso, let's talk about these Mets, because Pete Alonso does need protection. We've been wanting a DH all offseason. I've said Jorge Soler. I've said JD Martinez, who are both still available. I've said Justin Turner before he signed with the, I believe it was the Rangers. Was it the Rangers? Yeah, it was the Rangers, I think. I'm trackless right now. But, yeah, we need a DH, and it's looking like Mark Vientos is going to be our DH. Yeah. A guy who hit in the low 200s last year is going to be our DH. Yeah, let's see what he can do. I mean, he's got pop. He's definitely got pop in the bat. If he can stay consistent, he can stay healthy, and maybe he hits 20, 25 home runs for the Mets. I'd say that's pretty good. I'd say it's pretty good. So we'll see what Mark Vientos can do. I think my guess is what they're going to do is they're going to do Vientos and Baty platoon at the DH, and or maybe even just Baty at third every day and Vientos DH every day. Give him the shot. Give him the shot. I'm not uberly excited for Baty. I'm kind of interested to see how Mark Vientos does. I'm not confident in Baty at all. I don't think Brett Baty is as advertised. I don't think he's that good. Vientos, on the other hand, yet to be seen. Yet to be seen. He had some pop last year. He struggled because he didn't really have an everyday. He didn't hit every day. He didn't. But when you look at what he did do every day in the minors, now that's I'm going to put it up right now, his stats in the minors. Mark Vientos, across 61 games, this was last year in the AAA. 61 games AAA, 16 home runs, 306 batting average, 999 OPS. That's good. If he can replicate that at the major league level, Vientos can be a serious star. If he can replicate that just halfway, he could be a good DH for the Mets in 2024. Do I love it? No. Do I hate it? No. Do I like it? No. Am I okay with it? Yeah. Why? Because like I said, Mets aren't winning the World Series in 2024. So let's see what Vientos can do. Why not? And hey, if Vientos does great, that's great. If Vientos is struggling and the Mets are struggling, then whatever. If the Mets are doing good and Vientos is struggling, then we trade for another bat at the deadline. I'm not too worried about Vientos. I think he might surprise us in 2024. Drop in the comments what you think about Mark Vientos, because I know some Mets fans aren't excited, but let's see. We'll see what he can do. Wild card for the Mets rotation. Luis Severino. We're going to be talking about a Mets wild card in the rotation and the Mets wild card in their offense. We're starting off with the rotation. Luis Severino, because Luis Severino was a Cy Young candidate when he was having his best years with the Yankees. He was. From like when he started off with the Yankees until 2022, really, Luis Severino was one of the best pitchers in the American League. Let's look up his numbers right now from that stint. Last year he sucked. He had that 6.65 ERA, but he was also hurt. Yeah, 2022, just 2 years ago. 7-3, 3.18 ERA across 19 starts. If he does that, that's a plus. If he does what he did in 2018, that's great. 19-8, 3.39 ERA across 32 starts. 2017 he was legit. 14-6, 2.98 ERA across 31 starts. So 2017, 2018, Severino, he was a Cy Young candidate. Finished third in Cy Young vote in 2017, ninth in 2018. So if we get that Severino, then the Mets have two top starters with Senga and Severino. Even if we get 2022 Severino, I'd say that's good. We got our money's worth. So I think Luis Severino is the wild card in the Mets rotation. Sean Manaea, I'm confident that he can actually have a pretty good year based off the last 15 starts. He had a 2.98 ERA in 2023. Pretty good. Severino, though, had the worst year of his entire career in 2023. 6.65 ERA across 19 starts. But 2022, 19 starts as well, but he had 3.18 ERA. So if he gives us that, that's good. Money's worth. If he gives us anything more than that, that's amazing. We would love that. But the wild card of the Mets offense, Francisco Alvarez is the wild card of the Mets offense. He's a guy that I could see have a major breakout season. A lot of guys have sophomore slumps after they break out, but he kind of experienced a little bit of a slump in the second half. But Francisco Alvarez, where he finished in 2023, was actually really good. He was one of the best power hitting catchers. He was one of the best hidden catchers in the game of baseball last year, actually. He was. I mean, the 209 batting average isn't great. Just like Volpe, he does need to bring that up. But 25 home runs, very nice to see. 63 RBIs, 721 OPS. He brings up that batting average to 240, 250. That guy's going to hit 30-plus home runs in 2024. Mark my words. Francisco Alvarez, I think, is the wild card of the Mets offense because of what he did in the minors. He was the number one prospect in all of baseball. I mean, we're talking about Luisangel Acuna, Chet Williams. We're talking about even like Mark Vientos and Brett Baty. We're like, these guys are the next big things with the Mets. No, Francisco Alvarez was the next big thing in baseball. He's got that much potential. I mean, he did carry the Mets for periods of times in 2023. Remember all those walk-off home runs he was hitting in like a 1 week span? Francisco Alvarez has the potential to carry an offense. If he hits 30-plus home runs in 2024, he's that guy. He is that guy that the Mets have needed all offseason. The one that Mets fans have been saying, we need another guy in the lineup for Pete Alonso and Lindor. What if it's Francisco Alvarez? That changes everything. Everything. It's remained to be seen, but I think Francisco Alvarez is going to have a breakout year in 2024. So let's wrap up this baseball talk. We're going to dive into some football talk. I haven't talked about it yet, but Robert Saleh trying to take all the not all the head coaches, all the assistant coaches' phones trying about that Zach Wilson story leak, saying who did it, who leaked the story. So we're going to be talking about Robert Saleh and how he's a terrible head coach and why the Jets are a mess. And Aaron Rodgers, I'm not too confident that he's going to stay healthy all year. So you're going to be watching a quick video on why Gardner Minshew should be the backup just in case Rodgers does go down. But we need no line. We need some draft picks. I mean, there's some guys that we could draft with the 10th pick. And we're also going to be talking some Giants. Are they going to draft a quarterback? And then we're going to wrap it up with some wrestling talk, too. So, yeah, I'll be right back. Watch this quick video of why I think that Gardner Minshew should be the backup quarterback for the Jets going forward. But the Jets need a backup quarterback in 2024. Gardner Minshew will be available. Gardner Minshew is the guy that they should get. Gardner Minshew actually almost got the Colts into the playoffs. Yes, he had a little debacle at the end of the year, but it's not all on him. One, he's 27 years old, so he can move around a little bit. He's not going to be like a Tim Boyle or a Trevor Siemian, a guy who's going to be just standing there. And also, he had a 62.2 completion percentage, 3,300 yards in 2023, 15 passing touchdowns, and how many interceptions? Let's see. Only 9, 15-9. So if Aaron Rodgers does go down with an injury and it was Gardner Minshew who stepped in, you'd be a lot more confident than a lot of the other backup options. Ideally, it would be Mike White, but that's not happening. He signed a 2-year deal. He's going to be with Miami. Gardner Minshew is the guy that the Jets should go out there and get as their backup. Now, there are other options. They could go get Sam Darnold, another former Jets quarterback who will be available in free agency. There are other backup options, and they could always go out there and draft a future guy, maybe in the second or the third round. But what I think that they should do, and I think the best move, the best backup that will be available in the offseason in free agency is Gardner Minshew. He almost took the Colts to the playoffs, and it was a Colts team that nobody really expected to do anything. They got 9 wins, and Minshew was the starter. Over 3,300 yards. He had a winning record. You put Minshew with this defense and an offense with potentially Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Xavier Gibson, you get an actual offensive line. Minshew he will be able to win you games, is what I'm saying. So the Jets need a backup. Minshew's going to need a team. He probably wants to win. Speaking of the Jets are an absolute mess. They're an absolute mess. I'm going to be sharing the screen of the Athletic article that came out by Zach Rosenblatt and Diana Rossini. 2 very reliable reporters. They have very good sources within the Jets. So I believe every bit of this article, especially if you know my feelings towards Robert Saleh. I'm not a big fan towards that guy. I think he is just a defensive coordinator disguised as a head coach. But it is what it is. He's our head coach. We have to live with that. And yeah, that's basically it. Robert Saleh is not a good head coach. So let's go over this article. Is it on the screen? Robert Saleh and how the Jets season fell apart. Starts off by saying Robert Saleh saved the picture on his phone. Aaron Rodgers in number 8 New York Jets jersey carrying the American flag as he ran out of the tunnel for the season opener. That night, September 11th, MetLife Stadium was as loud as ever for a Jets game. The fans cheering for Rodgers, blah, 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 towards Achilles. Then Rosenblatt goes on to say, the injury forced the Jets to recalibrate their expectations. Super Bowl aspirations replaced by a much lower bar. 7 wins. That would be enough to get them to 2024 when Rodgers would return. 7 wins. The goal was no longer playoffs. It was survival. New York met that 7-win goal. Are you kidding me? 7 wins? 7 wins. You bring in all these guys outside of Rodgers. The only reason you brought in Rodgers was because he was what we needed to win a Super Bowl. He was the missing piece. So you have a bunch of other pieces that can get you to the playoffs. But Aaron Rodgers is the end-all, be-all? We didn't have a plan B? I mean, the Indianapolis Colts they lose Anthony Richardson. Gardner Minshew steps in. He gets them 9 wins. That's more than 7 wins. The Bengals, they lose Joe Burrow. You're telling me they didn't have playoff aspirations after that? Come on now. What is this? Last season, Dak Prescott goes down with an injury. Their backup QB gets the job done. I'm just saying, Joe Douglas, that's just lazy of him. To not have a backup quarterback not named Zach Wilson when it's Super Bowl or bust. And that's the same thing going into next season. If we lose Aaron Rodgers, that doesn't mean the Jets have just a free pass. No, there's no bailouts. There's no excuses. With or without Aaron Rodgers, the Jets need to make the playoffs. And if they don't, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas both need to go. And that's it. So then they go on to say in the article, to better understand the issues that contributed to another Jets failed season, the Athletic spoke to 30 sources in and around the organization, some of whom who were granted the anonymity to speak freely about their inner workings of the team without reprisal. Ugh. So let's just skip around in the article to one of the quotes from a Jets source. They write, "It's just a effing mess," one Jets coach said. "Something has to change." And this is from Rodgers, a statement from Rodgers. "I hope that's the only thing that's deja vu." What? This guy is just, Rodgers is a whack job, but he's good at what he does on the field. So if he can stay healthy, the Jets should go to the playoffs. But like I said, with or without him, they need to figure it out. And this is what they also write. What a lot of Jets fans have been saying all season: Rodgers is running the show. It's not Douglas. It's not uncommon for teams' decision makers to consult star quarterbacks on potential roster addition, but the perception around the league was the Jets went beyond the norm. Rodgers isn't the assistant GM, one AFC general manager said. Joe Douglas is the assistant GM. Rodgers made an effort to get to know his teammates and build friendships over lunch in the team cafeteria, on trips to New York City. He pulled teammates aside during practice to offer pointers, coaches too, and took former starter Zach Wilson under his wing. Wilson has been bitter of disappointment since being drafted number 2 overall, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Zach Wilson sucked. And then they go on to write, this was supposed to be Wilson's redshirt year, when the 24-year-old could sit back, watch, and learn from his idol. Wilson, in his 3rd year, is going to be a redshirt. Why? A redshirt? And then you have him as your number 2 quarterback? When the guy who is your starting quarterback is 39 years old? That's smart. Let's get back to the article. Skip around a little bit. Over the summer, Rodgers collaborated with Hackett. That's a good thing. But let's skip down here. Hackett will return as the offensive coordinator in 2024. That's a problem. Though team and league sources say Saleh has explored adding the offensive staff and creating a more collaborative play calling process that would reduce Hackett's role, a clear indication is that the team has lost confidence in his ability to run the offense on his own. Rodgers has been involved in those discussions. Wow. That is bad. That is bad, bad, bad. And Garrett Wilson said in the article, this is what it states: "What happened this season can't happen again," star receiver Garrett Wilson, who has played with 7 quarterbacks in 2 seasons in New York. 7 QBs. And he still put up back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Garrett Wilson, we cannot lose him. And we can't. If we lose this year, Garrett Wilson's going to get even more pissed. And he's not going to want to sign an extension with the Jets. And he is a superstar. So we need to keep that guy happy. And this is what Garrett Wilson has also said: "Football hasn't been this hard. When I watch it on the sideline, it don't look that hard for the other team. So we got to figure something out to get it rolling, no matter who is slinging it." That's exactly what I just said. The fact that when you lose Aaron Rodgers, you go from Super Bowl expectations to 7 wins? That's the new goal? 7 wins? Everybody's right. Something's got to change. And it's not too late to fire Robert Saleh. You still got time. The Super Bowl hasn't even been played. The offseason hasn't even officially began. You still got time. In an offseason where Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, you got the guy from the Titans, Mike Vrabel, all these great head coaches available, and you have Robert Saleh, a guy who has failed 3 years in a row, 3 losing seasons in a row, 2 back-to-back collapses after the bye weeks when the Jets were in a position to get to the postseason, a clear position to get to the postseason. All they had to do was win a few games, but they didn't. They collapsed back-to-back years under Robert Saleh. You have a great defense. Congrats. You have a great defense, but your offense sucks. You make no adjustments, and your record has nothing to say good about you as a head coach. Robert Saleh should have been fired after the season. They still have time to fire him. And after this article came out, I don't know how any Jets fan could be confident in Robert Saleh as the head coach going into 2024. It's an Aaron Rodgers show. It has been an Aaron Rodgers show since he came to town, and that's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing. Thank you, Yuki. I love you, man. Thank you for all the support. But back to the Jets. Robert Saleh has no excuses going into next year. No excuses. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt and the goal is 7 wins again, fire him. If Rodgers gets hurt next year, they should just fire Saleh. Because it's clear that Rodgers only wants Saleh and Hackett around so he could run the show. And if he's the reason that we can't get a reliable backup, like a Gardner Minshew or a Jake Browning or somebody that can step into the game and make plays, just get Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall the ball. That's simple. We need an O-line. We 100% need an offensive line. But what we desperately need is everything. We need everything. Something's got to change, like they said. And I think the change has to be Robert Saleh, but it's not. And if Rodgers is the reason that we can't get a backup because he doesn't want pressure behind him, if Gardner Minshew puts pressure on him, then I'm sorry. Rodgers needs to go. But I'm worried that the Jets are going to fall flat on their face again in 2024. I cannot lie. I can't lie. I can't go into this season saying Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl like I did last year. I cannot. Because they have the potential to set their goal as 7 wins if they lose Rodgers again. That is sad. That is sad. Nathaniel Hackett reportedly in that article, it also said that when Rodgers went down and Zach Wilson stepped in, no adjustments to the playbook. Hey, Zach Wilson, we want you to play exactly like Rodgers. We want you to make these precision throws just like a 4-time MVP. That's not who Zach Wilson is. When they changed the playbook, they changed the playbook for 2 games. 2 games. When Zach Wilson stepped back in as the starter and against the Kansas City Chiefs. And what were his 2 best games? Those 2 games. So I don't know how you don't change the playbook for a 24-year-old kid who can move around better in the pocket, who's not a pocket passer. That's not who he is. He's not Aaron Rodgers. So why are you expecting him to be Aaron Rodgers? And then when Wilson gets hurt, Aaron Rodgers ghosted him. So then Rodgers, oh, I'm his best friend. I'm his best friend. Yeah. No, you're not. Rodgers only cares about Rodgers. He doesn't care about the Jets. He doesn't care about bringing a Super Bowl to the Jets for the Jets. He cares about bringing a Super Bowl to the Jets to make himself look better so he can be the hero. Aaron Rodgers is not the hero. He's not the best player on the Jets. I can name 5 right now that are better than Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, CJ Mosley, Sauce Gardner, and DJ Reed. All of them are better than Aaron Rodgers at this point in their career. We don't need Rodgers. We can get rid of him. We could draft a quarterback, and we would be set up much better long term. And we could still have a shot to win next year because the defense is that good. But Rodgers wants to run the show. This is a Rodgers show. This isn't the Jets show. This is an Aaron Rodgers show. And it will continue to be an Aaron Rodgers show. But that's it on the Jets. I hate the Jets right now, especially since Robert Saleh is like a freaking high school teacher. Give me your phones. I want to see who leaked the story about Zach Wilson not wanting to start. Maybe because you sat him and then started him, sat him and then started him, and you didn't change the playbook for him. You didn't do anything for him. You didn't help him at all. But speaking of quarterbacks in New York, let's talk about Daniel Jones. He's on a short leash. He's got to make or break year this year. If he don't play good, he's done. If he play good, he's going to get that 2 more years that's left on his contract. If he doesn't play good, well, the Giants might draft a quarterback with the 6th overall pick, and he might be taking whoever that 6th overall pick, if it's a quarterback, he might be taking over midseason. Because if Daniel Jones, if he plays like he did for the first 6 games of 2023, where he threw two touchdowns and 6 interceptions, he's done. He's done. I mean, DeVito moved the ball better. Tyrod Taylor moved the ball better in the same offense with the same guys. So Daniel Jones is on a short leash. Make or break year for him. He's got to figure it out. No excuses. His best year, he threw 15 touchdowns in his best year. He threw 26 touchdowns in his first year in the league, but he didn't play as good. Daniel Jones at his best throws 15 passing touchdowns. We need to see better, especially when you get paid $160 million. Especially if you want all that $160 million, because you ain't getting it if you don't play good to start off the year. And if the Giants do draft a quarterback at 6 overall, I do expect to see that quarterback on the field at some point in the season. But Jones, he's going to walk in day one as the starting quarterback, as he should. He's got a franchise quarterback deal, so he has to play like a franchise quarterback. But if he doesn't, pull him out of the game, because not a lot of cap implications if they do cut him after next year. So Daniel Jones, make or break year. Should the Giants draft a QB? I'm not going to spend too much time on it. We all know that they should. There's another topic before I do get into the last topic of the day. Can the Giants make the postseason in 2024? I mean, if Daniel Jones plays good, yeah, they can. I mean, Daniel Jones played good 2 years ago when they made the playoffs and they won a playoff game. So if you get that Daniel Jones, then yeah, you will make the playoffs. Because especially if Saquon Barkley comes back, which I think he will. I think they're going to just franchise tag him one more time, and they should, because they need him. He's the best player on the team. Kayvon Thibodeau even said it too. They should have, which is another problem by Kayvon Thibodeau, saying that they should have signed Saquon Barkley before they did Daniel Jones. You don't bash your starting QB like that. You just don't. But yeah, Saquon Barkley should be back, and I think he will be back on the franchise tag. And if they do get a wide receiver with the 6th overall pick, then you're really going for the playoffs. And their defense is pretty good. Bobby Okereke is an all-pro NFL player. Top 10 in tackles 3 consecutive years. Okereke was a great pickup last offseason. Jalen Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, I think they're both number 2, number 3 receivers. Not number 1, but I think they could be good number 2 and number 3 options. You get a number 1 with the 6th overall pick, whether it's Marvin Harrison, or whether you get another guy with that 6th overall pick that's a stud wide receiver, or whether you sign a wide receiver this offseason, or you trade for one. Who knows? Get a legitimate wide receiver for Daniel Jones, or whoever that QB is that you do draft, that you potentially draft. That's what the Giants need to do, because they do have a playoff defense. I'll say that right now. And they have some playoff pieces on the offense. Saquon Barkley is a playoff piece. Daniel Jones plays like he did 2 years ago, he's a playoff quarterback. All they need is a playoff offensive line and a playoff wide receiver, and they can make the playoffs right there. All right, going to take a short break. Actually, you know what? Let's just, do I want to wrap it up or do I want to talk some WWE? I don't know. Yeah, let's call it a day. Let's call it a day. Thank you guys for watching, for sticking around. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Yuki, for participating with the comments. I really appreciate you guys. If you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, thank you. Make sure you hit that like button on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. And hit that like button too. And subscribe if you haven't. I'm out of here. Let's go Knicks tomorrow. They're not playing tonight. Another night off. Jalen Brunson's got to get some rest because he's been playing 40 minutes a night since Julius Randle's been out. But to wrap up the show, closing statements, Brunson is that dude. He's a superstar. All-star for the first time in his career. Huge pickup 2 years ago. He is that guy. He's an MVP candidate. Knicks, Eastern Conference contenders. Peace.